Wave. Hello. Hello. Okay. We are going to be talking about the preliminary English extension course. It consists of a compulsory module entitled Text, Culture and Value. There are 3 identified outcomes in the syllabus. 1, a student understands how and why texts are valued in and appropriated into a range of contexts. 2, a student develops skills in independent investigation involving particular texts and their manifestations in various forms and within particular cultural contexts. And 3, a student develops skills in sustained composition in a range of modes and media for different audiences and purpose. The following key phrases from the module description, the syllabus, are important when looking at the course. So texts from the past have been appropriated into popular culture, and how and why cultural values are maintained and changed. So it's helpful to consider the ways in which aspects of texts from the past have been appropriated into popular culture. So this addresses the syllabus outcomes. So understanding how texts have been adapted and appropriated into new contexts demonstrates how texts are a reflection of values in terms of their historical context, the values that were found within that, and our current context. And so being able to see how texts have been appropriated demonstrates that change of context and value within culture. It's a really good course, it's very interesting, and I think it allows students to engage with text on a deeper level. They start looking at and asking questions at a deeper level than what you get in standard and advanced courses. It's not just an analysis of text, but you need to understand the historical context, be able to read into and I guess ascertain the values that are embedded within text. Give us a smile. Give us a smile. The text selection is critical, so there's a bit of freedom in terms of the text that you can choose. Some of the things that I've come across and some of the things that I would do is look particularly at fairy tales, the idea of fairy tales, because you get obviously a large collection of classical fairy tales within quite an ancient historical context, or at least one that's removed from ours. But then there are a lot of examples of appropriations and I guess modern day fairy tales, and so there you have the ability to compare and contrast the fairy tales as they were historically, how they've become appropriated, what the differences are, how they reflect culture, how they reflect values. So looking at the original Cinderella story and then comparing that with the modern day film Enchanted is one such example of that. Another would be looking at the idea of subverted reading. So Roald Dahl's Revolting Rhymes gives another example of a different take on the Cinderella story. One area that I would focus on particularly is how feminism is represented in the fairy tales. So that's a very clear and easy way for students to discern the difference in values from the representation of women in fairy tales. Generally speaking, this course would allow for some really great open-ended discussion within the classroom, because it requires students to really think critically. Just knowing the answers isn't helpful for students who want to get really good marks. Some of the strategies I would use, as noted in this slideshow, is one would be think, pair, share, which just briefly is posing a question to the class, students on their own are required to think into what their response is. Then they're given the opportunity to discuss with a neighbour, so just in groups of two, then converse based on what they've thought and the ideas that they've kind of established. After that, the groups will be asked to present to the class. The class will then engage in discussion. So that's just one helpful way to encourage and foster a good culture of open class discussion. I didn't do this course in high school, so I had no idea what it was like. Having now researched it and looked into how it's set up and how it flows on into the Year 12 course, I wish I had done it. I think it's very interesting. I think it opens up a greater and broader range of questions and things for students to look into and understand than the standard and advanced courses do. I think the biggest difference is that it's not just about analysing and deconstructing techniques used in text. It generally asks broader questions about value and context and how it reflects those things, which can be more interesting, and I find those things more interesting. So I wish I had done this course in high school, and I look forward to teaching it. Now give us a smile. Give the camera a smile. Come on. Give us a smile. Give us a smile. Yeah. Give us another one. Come on. Give the camera a smile. Come on.